Dr. Stone has a somewhat controversial ending. A lot of people, myself included, loved the series as a whole, but found the ending to be a little underwhelming. So today I want to take a look at the story and see why I found the ending to fall a little flat, and why that's okay. For those unfamiliar with it, Dr. Stone is an adventure manga written by Riichiro Inagaki and illustrated by Boichi that completed in 2022. And its anime adaptation ended very recently on June 25th, 2026. It's a post-apocalyptic adventure story that takes place a few thousand years after everyone on Earth was mysteriously turned to stone. But one day, the main character, Senku Ishigami, wakes up and decides to revive humanity and rebuild civilization. The story is filled with vibrant characters, good themes, and surprisingly accurate science. Since I'm discussing the ending, this will, of course, have spoilers, but if you've already finished it, don't plan on reading it, or don't mind spoilers, then please enjoy my thoughts. As I said just a minute ago, humanity plus one species of bird were all suddenly turned to stone. The origin of the green petrification beam is a mystery right from the beginning, but they don't have any leads or ways to properly investigate this for a while, so the main focus is increasing technology and not getting killed by Tsukasa and his group. But eventually, they defeat Tsukasa's empire and are free to pursue other matters, such as getting platinum to make more revival fluid. And this is what leads up to the next incident. The main characters are on a neat little speedboat they made, equipped with a radio and sonar. And suddenly, their radio actually picks something up. Not from Ishigami Village, their home base, but from somewhere else. And the only thing this mysterious messenger says is, why? Why? So the gang dubs him Y-Man, and that's how he is referred to up through the moon confrontation. Oh yeah, Y-Man's on the moon, by the way. Then the next important part is on Treasure Island, where they actually find a working petrification machine referred to as the Medusa. The island has historically been bombarded with Medusas falling from the sky for some reason. I'm sure it was explained, but I don't remember. But this is the only working one that they have. So, yay, we have a new clue to study. And then when they go to South America later, they find a whole bunch of Medusas, albeit dead ones. But where did they come from? How did they work? Who decided to drop them on Earth? Why would they want to do that? And also, how is Y-Man still both alive and not petrified thousands of years after the inciting incident? These are all questions that still need answering, even up to the point where they found Y-Man on the moon and blasted off to go confront him. And by this point, I was really unsure how the mysteries were going to be resolved. The green light and the origins of Y-Man were reminding me of a noodle incident. Basically, a noodle incident is an event that is alluded to rather than overtly explained because the audience's interpretations will be wildly more entertaining than any official answer could be. It's the "you and I remember Budapest very differently" from Avengers. The Great Gullion incident, not that I had anything to do with that, from Keeper of the Lost Cities. Or the "what about the noodle incident? No one can prove I did that" from Calvin and Hobbes. It was really seeming to me like explaining the petrification beam would end up being like explaining the noodle incident, and it kind of did feel like that to me. Now, I'm not trying to say that the ending shouldn't have been explained at all. Since the mystery of why did everyone turn to stone was present since the very beginning, the story would have felt incomplete without an explanation. It would have been a rather important loose thread. What I am trying to say is that there wasn't really a good option. There was a lot of intrigue and curiosity surrounding the Petrobeam, but it wasn't something that could be fully explained by science as we know it now, and would therefore be hard to accurately guess at. I find that mysteries play out best when all the clues are laid out so that you could potentially guess the ending, but are just hidden enough to make it hard. But you can still look back on it and find all the clues and go, oh! That was there the whole time! Anyways, so Y-Man and the Medusas ended up being one and the same. They were some kind of alien artificial intelligence that petrified humanity in hopes that they would realize the rejuvenating nature of it and keep the Medusas from deteriorating. The reveal was fine. While I was expecting Y-Man to be a person, this did kind of make more sense. Even with both the petrification and the revival fluid, 3,700 years is a long time to stay alive. So while it did work, it still fell a little flat for me because there wasn't much way of actually predicting it. The rest of the story was built off of real scientific principles, even if they were occasionally stretched a bit to make the story flow better. And while AI does exist now, and aliens definitely could, it felt like it was straying a bit more into the abstract. I don't know, I feel like I'm getting mad at the fantastical element for being fantastical. There was one element that I had somewhat conflicting initial feelings about, but I've come to the conclusion that it was actually a good decision. And that element is the final showdown. In it, Senku disappears into a cloud of swirling Medusas to negotiate. When he returns, the Medusas have agreed to leave Earth alone and find somewhere else to inhabit, with the exception of one Medusa who is very interested in watching humanity progress. This part felt a little underwhelming at first, as it really seemed like it was going to be this big epic battle. There was a big fight with Tsukasa during the Stone Wars period, there was a big fight with Ibara at Treasure Island, and there was a big fight with Zeno and Stanley, although mostly Stanley, during their time in the Americas. But then they made it up to the Medusas on the moon, all prepared for this crazy battle, and it didn't end up being a fight at all. And while this was definitely unexpected, I think it worked well for the theme of the story. The theme of Dr. Stone isn't science lit to win battles, the main theme of the story is what humanity can accomplish by working together. And they accomplished some pretty amazing things. They started out in the Stone Age and got to the moon, and while conflicts came up and they did end up fighting, that was never the goal. Take, for example, the Stone Wars, where they made a promise that they were going to win without any deaths. And, well, they were able to take care of the Medusa problem without any deaths. While it could definitely come across as underwhelming, and to some degree it did for me, I also think it was a really nice way to resolve it. Also, the time travel thing at the end was a little weird, but I thought the bonus chapters in Volume 27 finished that up a little bit nicer. It's still definitely an open-ended ending, but science is always moving forward, so, I suppose that makes sense. So, I clearly do have a few issues with the ending, but something that I think is really important to keep in mind is that Dr. Stone isn't about the ending. The story is really about progress much more than destination. Science is always progressing, and we're always on that journey. And that journey, that joy in the learning and the exploration, is something that the story puts a lot of stock in. So the fact that the ending fell a little flat for me doesn't bother me all that much, because while a story's ending is definitely important, it also wasn't so much the focus of this one. And strangely enough, the fact that it had an ending that I can happily critique is something that I appreciate about it. Yeah, I have thoughts, I have notes, but at the end of the day, it's still a story that I will gladly recommend to people. The fact that I have all these notes is because the story stayed with me so long. I finished reading Volume 27 on May 5th. I'm recording this late July. I'll often think about stories that I've both finished and loved, but it's not often that they're so chronically on my mind. I have a lot to say about Dr. Stone, and the fact that some of it is a critique isn't a bad thing. The story has its flaws, but that doesn't make it a bad story. The flaws have only made me think about it more often, which I love because I love the story. And, that's what stories are meant to do. If you come away from something without any new thoughts or things to contemplate, there's a lot of missed potential. I love it when stories, be it books, shows, whatever, make me think. Because that thinking is you engaging in the story, and that makes it all the more meaningful. Sometimes it's coming away with a new perspective, being able to understand someone that you had previously thought to be very different from yourself. And sometimes it's a better understanding of the story's structure, being able to find its flaws and strong points in the messages it's trying to convey. Regardless, this is something I love. Engaging with text is a large part of what media literacy is, so I'm glad that people are here and talking about this story. And hey, some of these people are going to love how the ending played out, and that's great too. I think it's important to be able to think critically about a work, but I also think that you can enjoy something without it being perfect. I love Dr. Stone. If you haven't given it a try, I would highly suggest that you do. Flaws and all, I think it's a wonderful story. Thank you for watching. Please remember to drink water, and I hope you have a wonderful day.